to meet the expectations that they want. I also travel around the world helping developing nations modernize their curriculum to increase student global mobility. So that's a brief introduction. You'll see some pictures of what I do as we go along. But I really want to start with how I came to have the honor of knowing so many brilliant and accomplished Iraqi scholars. And so with a lot of static. Okay, in 2012, after I returned from Erbil and briefly taught at Salahuddin University, the company I was working for was having trouble figuring out what was wrong with their visa and I-20 applications of their newly admitted Iraqi PhD students. I was working on that challenge when I got an email from somebody at the University of Baghdad. At the top right-hand side was a random word, visa. And at the bottom left was another random word, birthday. It wasn't a lot to go on, but I got out all of the copies of the applications and the other documents, and I laid 24 pieces of paper around me in a circle. I discovered that the U.S. was the only country to have a birthday be month and then day. Most countries have day and then month. So as these birthdays moved from birth certificates to passports to applications, sometimes in the U.S. they would think 5 was May and not the day. And if any numbers got transposed, that was blocking the application from being accepted by the U.S. Embassy. So I continued to fix applications day after day until one day there was 2 feet of snow on the ground, and it was below 0 in January, and I know Lena's smiling right now. And 4 glorious, smiling, brilliant female PhD students arrived at my building in thick parkas with eyes as big as saucers from fear. And they surrounded me in a group hug, and they were tremendous. And wow, it worked. They're here. But beyond that, the real reason for telling this story was that I could see in their eyes their deep desire to overcome the past. I could feel their visceral determination to succeed and to rebuild their country. And I had the shivers. It was a tremendous amount of pressure on them and their entire family. I, too, was overcoming a painful past and had a need to rebuild my own life. There was a profound, innate, emotional connection between us all. And so I helped them move into their places, and they helped me move into mine. And I hosted Easter egg hunts for their children, and they taught me how to make biryani. And more scholars arrived. One who will be trying to enter the room soon, he was so excited as soon as he landed with his suitcase in hand and horrendous jet lag, he came straight to my office. And he said, "Jessie, you had to be the first person I met." I was really overwhelmed. But as time went on, our self-confidence grew, our belief in ourselves grew, increased together, and we all got our graduate degrees. and most of my friends have returned to Iraq now, but we're still in touch. And so that kind of brings us to today. Lena, do you want to say anything? Or is Jihad out there too? Dr. Ahmed, are there any questions?
No, we are. Lena is there.
Hello, hello, Jesse.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Good, Lena, how are you?
I'm good. I miss you a lot.
Yeah, I miss you too. Where are you?
I'm in it was really like someone met his mom, because we were like we were kind of confused. We didn't want how to start, and you were really a great guide for us at the first week or the whole time actually. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, how are your children?
They're great. They're good.
And Salman, how's Salman?
He's good too. Yeah, we miss you all. Yeah.
Okay.
We hope you visit us one day.
I will. I keep trying. Maybe when COVID's over. Okay. Thanks, Lena. So I'm going to try and present now. And Dr. Ahmed or Nargis, please, somebody let me know if you don't see the presentation, because I have 3 screens. And if it doesn't go from the right, if it doesn't present from the right screen, then we may have a difficulty. What do you guys see?
Now we are seeing just
حتى حظر التجوال في تلك الفترة كان أفضل بكثير. حقيقة
see you only.
Okay, you have a slide and there's a picture of me and University of Karbala.
No slides, just you.
No, there are no slides, nothing.
No slide, okay. So, Dr. Ahmed, I have sent the presentation to you, if that helps, but I just clicked on another button. Do you see the slide now?
No. Till
No.
Now, no.
Okay, I'll keep trying. So, it says that I'm the presenter, and when I play from start, I can maybe swap displays. We'll try that. And then I'm going to click on Use Slideshow.
I'm so sorry, but the voice don't understand.
Okay, I'm sorry. The PowerPoint on my end, it shows that I am presenting my presentation. Do you see it?
No, we do not see. Will you
No, we
share
cannot
it again?
see.
Share it again. We do not see.
Okay.
Yes, Jessica, I think you need to share your screen from your side, please.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe I have to go to my settings.
Yes, you need to share your screen, please.
Channel.
And Dr. Ahmed, if you can turn the mode to be lecture, this will be more suitable. So
yes, we cannot turn the mode of the lecture because this will mute also Jessica. This is the problem. I tried.
I don't see a button that says share screen.
Dr. Ahmed, you can make her the host. Make her the host, so she can.
No, it cannot be the host. This is the problem with a free conference call.
That's okay. I sent him the PowerPoint so he can display it if he likes.
Yes, I will display it. Just a minute.
While he's doing that, I will tell you that in addition to traveling around the world and working with universities in developing nations and editing books, I do a lot of work with student-centered teaching. I have been teaching in student-centered methods for over 20 years. I started teaching Korean Army soldiers in 1991, and then from then I got my master's degree in French, and I taught French at the University of Hawaii. And goodness, I don't know where to go from there. I'd love to see who's here. I'm going to try to see the other people.
Okay, Jessica, you can try again. You can try again, please.
Ah, I see. So it has to do with this installer. And
you have to accept to be a presenter.
Okay, I accepted it. And I opened it.
Share, I think.
Okay. Stop.
The voice not found. Sorry.
Okay, Jessica, can you hear me?
Hello, I'm back.
Hello.
Did you share the screen?
I am trying to.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to try one more time.
Okay.
Every time we use a new platform, we have to adapt. I'm getting used to this adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
So, did we have it? Do you see it yet? Still no.
No, not yet.
Try one more time with another. Nothing.
I don't know, because now you are not a presenter. This is the problem. You see? You should be now a presenter. Every time I give you a request, then you accept, and then you are not the presenter. I don't know why.
Okay, I can start
So now,
sharing. Save this application. It's loading now. It's asking me what to share. I got it.
Yes, I think yes, you are presenter now. For me, you are presenter.
And what do you see?
Okay, we're starting to see something. Just a minute.
Yeah, say Jessica screen. We can see that.
Okay, do you see one slide or do you see a preview of two?
I think
Just move one slide. Just move the first slide.
Yeah, the first one.
Okay, great. We did it.
Yeah.
This is a good lesson in online interactivity. that we are all adapting always and learning new platforms and click here. This has been everybody's life for the last couple of months. So once again, I want to thank University of Karbala, in particular Dr. Ahmed Hashim Al-Musawi, for the invitation, and I would like to thank Dr. Nargis for the opportunity. You can scan that code and that will link you to my LinkedIn account. And the title of the presentation is The Importance of Increasing Interactivity in the Medical School Classroom, even in e-learning. So we're all okay now, right? Everybody's okay?
Johnny, I'm in here.
Okay. So I want to start with the Iraqi context. And I have from various sources that prior to COVID, lectures are the standard. And I was reading in one article in Al-Fanar Media where a medical student said the examination method is just not useful. And here I have another picture of a classroom. It looks like students are, on the pieces of paper, I think I see pictures of scan images of the brain, and students are working. And I want you to remember these pictures because we are going to reconfigure these spaces. Here's another classroom. I have a classroom at Miami that looks very similar. There are alternative ways to fill a space, any space. And this is me teaching in a hallway one day when I thought the class was too crowded. These days, this is what class looks like around the globe. For the time being, shelter-in-place orders have put everybody online. And the infrastructure concern is a new label in the form of internet access. I want to start with what students are not. Students are not vessels into which someone learned pours knowledge. Human learning doesn't work that way. In this picture, you see medical doctors sitting with students. The medical doctors have their blue lanyards on.
We still do not see the slides.
The doctor next. I'm sorry, what?
We still do not see the slides. We don't know what's the problem.
Well, I can keep trying to solve the problem, or
now it's
what do you see?
okay. Now we see.
Yeah, we got it now. Thanks,
Okay,
Jessica.
now it's okay. We see two pictures, the whole size, not full screen.
All right, hang on a second. I'll go back to presenting. Now, do you see again?
No. No, go back, please. We can't see this way. I think it was the wrong click, maybe.
So I have 3 screens, and I've shared one screen with you. And I wonder.
Now it's okay.
I have to select an item to share with you. I know what to do.
Yeah, so we can't see clearly. You are trying to show us.
Do you see the slide now?
Yes, we can see now. We can see now. I think everybody can see this.
Yes,
All
we
right.
can see now. Yeah.
All right, so I'll go back to this is my you can scan the QR code and connect with me on LinkedIn. And I showed some pictures of some medical school classrooms, and I was talking about the way the space is being used. Students are looking at some papers, and I really liked this picture because I have a room that's very similar to it. Then I showed students working side by side, and they're standing and talking in a hallway. So there are alternative ways to fill space. And then I was saying that shelter-in-place orders have put everybody online, and we're all adapting and overcoming. And then the image, this is what a student is not. A student is not a vessel into which someone learned pours knowledge. And then this is where we were before, that this is a picture of medical doctors and scientists with the blue lanyards, and the student, the child, is talking, and the doctors and scientists are listening to that child. And I'm showing this slide because I want to say that by definition, medical school students are brilliant. And their curiosity and love of learning, it needs to be fostered, not put to sleep, so that they want to solve the greatest problems of our time. In this picture, the student is in the front of the room. His questions are displayed. This Stanford professor is in the middle of the room with a metallic wig. He's listening to the students' questions. This is at Stanford. I bring up second language socialization theory here because experts help newcomers build their linguistic abilities in any subculture. And for that to happen, the neophytes, they need to actually speak. First and second year medical students are building their medical language, and they need to use it, not just read it, and not just listen to it. So this professor, according to second language socialization theory, he is accepting this neophyte into the new culture, subculture. I have questions about this slide. So anybody who is able to answer, please feel free to answer. At whom are the sitting students looking? Who are they looking at? Anybody? Oh, maybe you can't speak, but they're looking at a student. Again, the student is presenting. And what, so who, if anybody can answer this one, is decidedly and purposefully not speaking? That's the teacher. What that looks like in online teaching is dividing content among the students. Assign pairs of students to create presentations on different content areas. One group presents on the anatomy of the hands. Another group presents on anatomy of the feet. Another group on cardiac function. Whatever it is you're doing, divide the content up and give it to the students. So people, during class, students are going to present together and ask questions of each other. The teacher should not talk more than 10% of the class, and that takes discipline on the part of the professor. You can see that this professor is displaying great self-discipline in not speaking. So we're setting the students up to do the talking. And the teacher, of course, should clarify any points that the student doesn't seem to have gotten. Are there any questions at this point? Or let's hold questions till the end. I think that's the best way. Medical language is its own language indeed. And for professors out there, maybe it's been a long time since you've learned the new vocabulary. But over the last couple weeks, I have been struggling with it. So here's me trying. Odontoid anomalies include aplasia, hypoplasia, and os odontoideum, and are commonly seen in Morchio's syndrome, 30 to 50% with a combination of os odontoideum and slatoaxial instability and cervicothoracic abnormalities. Anybody want to tell me what field is that from? I really struggled with it, but I'm glad I'm not in med school. So this is from pediatric neurosurgery. And I have another example. Hemcerolinus, adventitial delivery to improve angiographic outcomes below the knee. Does someone want to tell me what field that is? Cardiology. This last one comes to the slide from my personal knowledge. My daughter had this exact issue when she was a child. So, the histopathologic relationship between ethmoid sinus and ipsilateral middle turbinate in non-polypose chronic sinusitis. Phew, by Fess. So because it has sinus in it, maybe you know that's otolaryngology. So my point here is that whether online or in person, students need to use the language with their mouth. They need to practice before they get to becoming residents. I don't think you want a resident to speak the way I spoke with a patient who is having problems. So how can this resident sound empathetic if he's struggling with the big words? And here, sir, you have odontoid anomalies of the aplasia, hypoplasia. He's not going to connect with the patient who is already emotional because they're having a problem. And you can see the look of frustration on the patient's face. So here we have our first example of how you can do it in your classrooms with any space. I'm going to go into physical space in a minute, but we're going to start with team-based learning. And beyond just language, based on current research in learning theory, pre-class preparation is the reading. They can watch videos alone. They can complete assignments alone. They can look at workbooks alone. The class time is a time to connect your learning with others. So you'll see my sources at the end, and this Haydn says that teams can even take a test as a group in class, so that students can appeal answers to each other with valid arguments, with the teacher clarifying misconceptions. So the groups are going to solve real life simulating problems, including complex or ambiguous scenarios. Online, students can easily have teams. I'm on a team in my MBA class. Last Thursday, a different team of 5 people presented online. They even sent out questions ahead of time to the other teams so that we were able to interact with that team. We, the students, spoke. Our cameras are on, and we can see each other's facial expressions and gestures. There are always those who choose to not. And this is an important point. Students are going to say, my camera's broken. And maybe it is, but whether it is or not, as teachers, we can focus on those who choose not. We can say, why were you absent? We can say, why didn't you do your homework? Or we can choose to give our time to those who truly show up. They show up with their eyes and their ears and their mouth. Don't let the unmotivated suck up your valuable time. Focus on those who are aggressive about their future and curious about the content. They deserve your energy. It's actually easy to just ignore the I can't do it. When they realize they don't have your attention, they often make a decision to either engage in order to get positive attention or to leave. So back to pre-isolation. Pharmacy students at University of Iowa create presentations and deliver them. This process creates mastery of content, self-confidence, and self-efficacy. To quote Kevin Moores, clinical associate professor in the Department of Pharmacy Practice and Science, this process has taught them to be critical evaluators of new information, to be seekers of new information, and to incorporate that into their practice. Now, moving on to an online environment, I just discussed how student presentations are easily implemented. It is the mindset shift that's difficult. It's difficult for educators to take them out of the center. But if we as teachers have any power at all, that power comes from the success of our students. The smile in their eyes showing that they're still interested. When our students can do, we gain as teachers. Moving on to the University of Iowa's website, I want to highlight some snippets. So student pictures and quotes are at the top, not professors. And what's interesting is that a professor here is posited as a mentor. This university has the students in the center. Before you think this active teaching thing is isolated, this picture is from Washington State University's website. Notice the student in the middle of the experiment. Now we're moving to Boston. The first sentence from Harvard Medical School's website is, students engage in active learning. Now I have a funny slide for you. This is a comic strip from the far side. It shows a caveman on a stone wheel, and they've tied him to the wheel. And it's called Early Experiments in Transportation. The benefits to active learning include guarding against entrenchment of misconceptions. And I'll show you my sources at the end. Also, the biggest benefit is that this is not knowledge acquisition based. Rather, it's competency development based. Now we're moving from Washington State across the country to Vermont. This is a medical school classroom at the University of Vermont. The headline from this Inside Higher Education article reads, University of Vermont's College of Medicine announced it was getting rid of lecture courses and completely reshaping the faculty role. It's the faculty role that changed in 2016. One of the biggest benefits from this method is one instructor can facilitate many teams, up to 200 students. This is done every day in universities across the country. So the title from this article said, at the university's website says, Become a Doctor, No Lectures Required. The real problem is, or the real challenge here, is that the instructor's role shifts from knowledge presenter to content preparation and moderator of the competency demonstrations. I have another example of a way to increase interactivity. This is one that I often use. Have students at table A or in conference breakout group A read about concept A before class. They read before class. In class, as a team, they prepare a presentation about it. The same for table B or conference breakout group B, and so on. The professor goes from table to table or breakout group to breakout group, double checking the slides and answering questions. I did this myself online. One day I had 10 conferences going at a time, and I went from room to room to room working with the students. After they do this, you're going to put someone from table A, B, C, etc. at the same table, and the students are going to teach each other. As teachers, we know we learn material best by teaching it. So with interactive classrooms, the greatest minds of our time will have the self-confidence to solve those problems. I've also been looking for online resources. I have sent, well, we'll start with this one. So I found Online Med Ed, and these are free videos for medical school students. There is an online dissection company, but I've sent that information to your administrators because that one does have a fee, but it is an alternative. So when we talk about overcoming challenges to implementation, I want to go back to what I was saying earlier. I want to posit a paradigm shift. There is very real fear around the world, an unprecedented, singular anxiety has swept across the globe. At the beginning of the presentation, I spoke about the amazing ability of the Iraqi people to focus on overcoming. I've seen it. On your innate determination to rebuild. As leaders, I call upon you to drag students' minds away from the fear, from the abyss, to help your students focus on what is possible. It is very easy for all of us, any of us, to become sad and depressed. But instead of letting them focus on isolation, tell your students that class is a way to connect in a time when so many people cannot and are just isolated. It is our duty to help them see how lucky they are to have this opportunity, to have this connectivity, to have this space. What a privilege for me, I can tell you, that we are connecting right now around the globe. We are growing as individuals. We are growing as a group. Many places have infrastructure needs, and I'm not saying that they don't feel that lack. I'm saying that because of the lack, because of that, encourage your students to focus on what they do have. I have one student who the internet kicked out of class 10 times in 1 hour. He re-entered the room every 30 seconds, each time. He kept trying to apologize. And I said, I don't want you to apologize. I want you to focus on how aggressive you are at trying to stay connected. You should be proud of yourself, I said. What I'm saying is don't entertain the natural frustration that rises when there are internet or infrastructure problems. Reach down deep and employ that powerful energy to lead your students now to enjoy the connection that we all have and hold that joy close to your heart. So now you're going to see some pictures of me reshaping space. One of the questions I get is, how do I do it with 200 students? During this presentation, there were 1,500 students. I walked up the aisles. I walked down the aisles. I shook hands. I asked students their names. These were high school students. I asked them what they wanted to do when they grew up. I was connecting with the students. And this is the end of the presentation. I'm going to go to the next classroom. Instead of having the students do the worksheets by themselves during class, have them do that at home. You can see 2 students at the front of the room with me, and you can see everybody's eyes are up, and everybody's eyes are looking at us, including the students. And the mother, her smile is huge, if you can see her. Here's another presentation where I am not the only one at the front of the room. Empower the students. Here's a classroom I showed you earlier. Miami University classrooms are not so different. And we don't have the most of everything. There are differently shaped rooms with different shaped desks or different formats. And I use my space creatively. Here you can see students working with puppets. And they're not sitting, they're standing. They're moving around, and they're talking, and they're smiling, and they're struggling with the information. One more classroom. I got hundreds of students up on the stage with me. And after this picture was taken, we started dancing because it was fun. And maybe you judge that professor who had the metallic wig on, but he teaches at Stanford. Humor is important. Keeping people active is important. Here's another classroom. These pictures were sent to me by Dr. Al-Sawi and Nargis, and so thank you for those pictures. So I don't like to be at the front of the room alone. And we have the students here looking at information that they wanted, and I'm walking down the aisles of this very small space, very crowded space. I loved this picture. This picture, you can see the girl in the middle. She's engaged and smiling, and the gentleman is smiling. Everybody here is working on a problem together. And the professor is not at the center of attention. I loved it. So the reason that, so you've seen why student-centered teaching is effective and it has benefits, but the benefits go beyond just the intellect. These brilliant minds in Iraq, they have to want to solve the greatest problems of our time. And that's what student-centered teaching does. So these are my references. It's pulling them up, kind of. Okay, here we go. And this is being recorded, so if you need to access them, you can. I'm going to take questions in a minute, but for now, I want to thank Dr. Ahmed and Nargis again, and the University of Karbala for this wonderful opportunity. And one last time, if you didn't get it the first time, you can scan the QR code and connect with me on LinkedIn.
Okay. Thank you, Jessica, for this. Yes, please, please.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jessica, for this very inspiring presentation with with many messages full of hope. Thank you very much for this. Now, if somebody wants to ask something, please, you can proceed with the questions.
I have a question, Dr. Ahmed.
You can ask Jessica, not me.
Go ahead.
Okay,
What's your name?
Dr. Mohammed is...
yes.
Yes, please. Yes, Dr. Mohammed, please.
Thank you very much. Please, Jessica, thank you very much to start with. The question is that how can the facilitator control many teams of up to 200 students?
That's a really good question, Dr. Mohammed. And I think the idea of control has to go out the window. And that's why I called it a paradigm shift. We can't control everything that everyone's doing all the time, but nor do we want to. We want them engaged with the material. And one of the challenges in a student-centered classroom is, in fact, the lack of control. When I teach debate, I have 2 students at the front of the room, and they are in full-fledged debate about some important issues. And students in the classroom don't like what they're saying. So students in the classroom are shouting. But they're all engaged in the material. They're all engaged in what's going on. And so I would say, Dr. Muhammad, with great respect, try to get used to not having so much control. But that doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice the clarification of misconceptions. If the students are making a mistake or going in the wrong direction, of course, stop that. Does that help you?
Thank you very much. It's very clear.
It takes practice, Dr. Muhammad. It takes a lot of practice. Next question.
Please, any other questions?
Can I have a question?
Yes, please. Dr. Ali.
Yes, thank you very much, Jessica, for your nice presentation. I just want to ask about the dominant students. In the classroom, we can manage such students, but online, actually, it is very difficult because they take most of the time, and controlling such students is, I feel, it's difficult online. So what is your experience about that? Thank you.
That's a really good question, too. You guys are asking really smart questions. I love that. There are the dominant students. Sometimes I let them talk because they are leading the others. And then I tell the dominant students that they are now teachers and that they are now leaders. And I ask those who are dominant to substitute, instead of dominance, to replace that with leadership. And as a leader, it is their job to help others learn. So I will deliberately pair up a dominant student with a weak student. And the dominant student can then teach the weaker students, whether that's in a group chat or during homework time, but it gives the dominant student the opportunity to remain a leader now, but not always in the center of the room and dominating the whole space. Does that help you, Dr. Ali?
Yes, thank you very much. But the problem is that sometimes the dominant student is a close friend of the chief or of the leader of the meeting, who is also a student, and he may assist him to be dominant. This may be a problem also.
So in this case, I would use the adage of have those types of conversations in private and to praise in public. So I would enlist the student privately in this conversation of leadership and ask him to help you lead the class by working and building up the strengths of those who are less capable, and remind the students what I said about if we as teachers have any power, that power comes from students who succeed, and ask that, and so have that conversation with him privately and ask him to substitute leadership instead of dominance. Sounds like a tough conversation, though, Dr. Ali. There's a question that was posted by Shayoha. That might be like two names combined. I don't know. But how do you evaluate the output? And so instead of a test, oh, thank you, Dr. Shahrazad. Dr. Shahrazad. Okay, I'll try to pronounce that.
Dr. Shahrazad.
Yes, I'm writing that down. So just taking a test does not demonstrate understanding. And I can say this because in other countries, students take I think this is true for Iraq too, but they just take a test after high school. That's all they do is take a test. But I have a lot of those students in my classroom, and they are not necessarily knowledgeable. Choosing A or choosing B does not demonstrate knowledge. If a student is making a presentation like I just made, with all of that big vocabulary word, all of those big vocabulary words, they're demonstrating their knowledge with their mouth and with the charts they made. Also, Dr. Shahrazad, I would point you back to the slide about the pharmacy students at the University of Iowa and look at their website to see the detailed presentations that they made. They have charts, they have graphs, and they're showing how the information connects here and here. These are professional presentations that demonstrate the student has taken the information in, and they've digested it, and they've created their own version of what that means to them. And there are plenty of opportunities before that presentation makes it to the public that you can look at that presentation and say, you know, you got this part right, but this one down, but I really like these complex questions, and I love it like when Dr. Ali said, but here's the real problem. So, Dr. Shahrazad, if you would like to say something like, you don't have to just say, thank you, but if you're still having problems with thinking about how to demonstrate output, I'm happy to hear that. Dr. Shahrazad?
Yes, please. Thank you, Jessica.
You're welcome.
Okay, I meant evaluation of the future doctors by the market, the hospitals. What do they, do you evaluate your future doctors in regard to this teaching method, the small group teaching method that our university, our medical college also adopts?
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
I mean,
and,
yes, I was sorry. Just to add something to add. I mean, studies. Are there papers written about this, affirming that the output of our study or learning method is good for producing equitable physicians and doctors, future doctors?
Yes, there is a ton of research out there, and so when we watch the presentation or go to the end, and you can see some of my references, but it's also very easy to search student-centered teaching in medical school. But I would also, Dr. Shahrazad, like to talk about a different aspect. And when we talk about testing, it's very hard for people in other countries to understand that, yeah, the U.S. takes standardized tests. They take the MCAT to get into medical school. They take the SAT. Please trust me when I tell you that U.S. students are not studying these tests. U.S. students are engaged in the kinds of activities I was showing to you, and they do study strategy. But we do this for about 6 months on a Saturday as an extra class, and they're studying what is the strategy behind these types of questions. And they are not studying the SAT or the MCAT. Every test is a different kind of strategy test. And so, yes, we all take them. But like before I went into the SAT or the GRE, I took a one-day seminar with a company on strategy. And I was looking at this huge reading and it was all science words. And the facilitator said, now when you read that, don't get intimidated by the big words. I want you to understand that this is a strategy question. And so go to the question, read the question, and then find that big word and go back to the question. And because our culture has been doing this for so long, I think that we have more confidence in our ability to translate that demonstrated knowledge into a test that we're going to take. And I think it takes a leap of faith, Dr. Shahrazad, to realize that if I am making all of these presentations, if I am digesting all of this information by creating presentations, yes, I can take that test. And yes, my output will be evaluated very, very well. But it does take a leap of faith.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Dr. Shahrazad.
Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Jessica, just one thing, and Dr. Noha, nice definitely to listen to your wonderful lecture, and many thanks for your wonderful presentation. I just wanted to say something back to the question of Dr. Shahrazad in regards to presentations, or let's say student-centered learning. I spent 9 years outside in Australia, and basically all of my kids, they received their primary and actually higher education in Australia as well. And the system that was used for teaching basically was based on student-based learning. I'm talking about the undergraduate, I mean not the undergraduate level, sorry, I'm not talking about the medical school, I'm talking about the primary and high school.
Yes.
So so I'm not going to say, okay, this is a reference paper or this is a research showing that, you know, this system is better than lecture-based teaching. I'm just sharing my personal experience, what I faced with my kids. For sure, 100%, I would say, when it depends on the student, it's much, much better than when it depends on the teacher, him or herself. I mean, in terms of the teaching. So when my baby, I would say she was my baby, when my child, okay, when she started in a prep, doing her presentations, doing the presentations, PowerPoint, preparing PowerPoint slides, actually in her prep, I would say, in her prep and in her first year at the primary school, you know, doing her presentations, her posters, her PowerPoint, her own work, and showing that, presenting that to the whole class, what she learned out of her presentation was much, much, much higher than what she received from a lecture from her teacher, you know, just because she did the work herself, just because she shared her experience with others. She had to digest all the information. She had to understand what she's going to present before presenting that. With the help of other students in the class, and with the interest that the others put in her work, she ended up giving really brilliant presentations and brilliant, you know, ended up having a brilliant learning experience. That's about the primary school. So I think, yes, if we are talking or comparing the old system with the newest one, or let's say the teacher-based one with the student-based one, it's definitely the student-based one much more productive, I would say. And in terms of the quality, it's the students that are created out of this, they're much more qualified, much more knowledgeable than those who receive the, you know, the traditional teaching, where the teacher is the dominant person in the class. So thank you again, and hopefully this will help Dr. Shahrazad to, you know, to reassure her that, you know, yes.
I'm so glad you're there. Yeah, I'm so glad you're there, Dr. Nuha. I have pictures of my children in high school in physics, in AP physics, and one of their assignments was to create a perpetual motion machine. And they did it from whatever was in the house. We had pipes. We had a tennis racket. We had a ping pong ball. And you take whatever you have. And the kids are just so excited. And they're doing it. And the other thing that this builds, so in a couple of weeks I'm doing a presentation on online learning, but Dr. Nuha, when we're talking about, we're also talking about social skills here, especially if we're talking about undergraduate students or high school students.
Definitely.
And so they're learning to talk to people, they're learning to talk with people, they're learning how to work as a part of a team. And from what I hear, doctors work as a part of a team their whole careers. So why aren't they working in teams now?
Yes, exactly.
The national...
Very true. I totally agree. Very, very true. It's not important just to, you know, generate a machine, like just turn this person into a computer, and then when you put him in real life, he doesn't have any you know, social skills. He doesn't know how to interact with others, you know, and even he doesn't know how, you know, to convey or to express himself or herself. So yes, with those presentations, especially when they started early in life, you know, they develop lots of things on the personal level. I mean, because teaching is not just about knowledge. I always say that knowledge is out there everywhere. It's in books. It's on the net. It's you know, like it's everywhere. You can get it from everywhere if it's just about knowledge. It's always about how people get the knowledge, and it's not just about, you know, the amount of information they get. It's also about how much they can get out of this information, how much they can you know, apply in practice, I would say. So we are not talking about just getting doctors, and we can see that in practice as well. We have doctors, they have lots of information, very knowledgeable, they read hundreds of books, but when it comes to practice, they're very poor. They at communication, for example. So
you're talking about something that's so close to my heart, in that I talked about it a couple weeks ago when I did a presentation on student-centered
الإصابات المستمرة بفيروس كورونا في محافظة البصرة في ظل تردد الوضع الصحي الذي يفرض بالمؤسسات الصحية في تدارك الأزمة ويزيد معاناة المصابين في الحصول على الرعاية الصحية المطلوبة خاصة وأن
Dr. Zainab, just wait. I'll get to your question in 1 second. The National Association for Colleges and Employers issues 10 traits that employers most want. Number 1 is social skills. Number 2 is communicating orally. Number 3 is creative problem solving. If students don't ever solve problems creatively, how can they have creative problem solving when they graduate? So what you just said, Dr. Nuha, is so close to my heart about developing humans. And I've always been developing humans. And I hope that you'll find a way to connect with me on LinkedIn or Facebook or something.
Sure, yeah, definitely. Sure, thank you so much. Thank you.
Move on right now to other questions.
Can I have a comment?
Zainab off, but I think maybe he had a question.
I just have a comment about Dr. Nuha, not about, she said that they are more knowledgeable. I think most published studies showed that students taught in the traditional lecture-based method are more knowledgeable than integrated or small group taught students. So it is not, this is the only difference between, they are better in problem solving, better in team working, better in communication, but in knowledge, I think goes in the traditional because they are taught more lectures and more information are given to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ali Musa, I believe. There is a lot of research out there about how students fall asleep in lectures. And I am not a doctor, as you guys know, I'm not a medical doctor. My expertise is on interactivity. And I can tell you that a lot of students who are passive are not learning as well as students who are active. Students have to struggle with the information, whether that's in a team, but anything that can be delivered in a lecture can be delivered in a video at home alone. And students, if they come to class having read, if they read at home, and then they get to say to the professor exactly what you just said to me, Ali, Dr. Ali, like, hey, I disagree with this point. Or if a student gets to say, I understand the function, I understand cardiac function, but I don't understand this specific valve. The students need to take what it is they learned passively, and they need to engage with other people in order, or other materials, in order to really master the content and be able to demonstrate that. Sorry to disagree with you, Dr. Ali, but as a person trenched in a culture and educated and practicing interactivity, I can tell you, if I lecture, my students are falling asleep. I get them up and moving. And you're welcome to disagree with me again. Next question.
Any questions more, please?
I do have one point of personal reference, and I mentioned my daughter earlier, and when she was young, we were living in Boston, and she had a lot of sinus problems as a baby, and we lived in the ENT's office. And I had met many otolaryngologists across the country, and the one in Boston was the best. And I said, you're so much, better at talking to me. He was also in the top 5 list in the world. And I said, so what is the differentiator between a surgeon, a really good surgeon, and a great surgeon? And he said, well, surgeons don't usually like to talk to their clients. But if the surgeon can really connect the information to the client, and that's about connection, it's not about information, it's about connecting. If they can really connect the information to the client, then you have a team. And so connecting the information to the people is a distinguishing feature of a great surgeon. And I'll give one example of the opposite. I had a lung problem, and my doctor told me to go see a surgeon. And the surgeon said to me, well, here, take these antibiotics, and if it doesn't work, then we will ligate it. I said, you're going to ligate my lung? And he ran out of the office. He literally walked out of the office. I said, wait a minute. You're talking about cutting my lung off. I need to hear more about that. And he ran away from me. So anyway, those are 2 personal stories about interactions with great surgeons and not so great surgeons. Next question.
Can I have a question, please?
Of course. Go ahead, Zina.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, thanks for Dr. Ahmed and Nargis, and thank you for you, Dr. Jesse, for letting me to join. Your presentation. Actually, I would like to ask a question, or I would like to have from your opinion. What do you think about that? For online meeting lecture, actually, I have meeting lecture with my students. They have a presentation with me, while some of the students, they didn't present their presentation. I don't know what's the problem. Maybe they feel shy. So after the lecture, they just record themselves, then sending back again for me. So do you think it's a problem or not?
Thank you for your question, Zina.
I
think this is very cultural, and I think it's very cultural, but I'll also say that some of it has to do with policies. You can create a policy that cameras should be on, and so everybody's looking at each other's faces. I love to see faces out there. I'm happy to have your cameras on if you want, or if you can. But so I create policies, and the policies help guide the students in knowing what is expected of them. And because cameras are on is a policy, and because student presentations is a policy, that helps them to be more brave. And I think, Zina, especially as a woman leader, as a woman female doctor, it's sometimes, society has taught women to be nice, and society has taught women to be quiet. And I find across the world it's harder for female English teachers to encourage English teaching in English in the classroom. They feel shy to speak English, even though they're the leader of the classroom. And I help people try to overcome that shyness and recognize the fact that if you're a teacher, you're a leader. And if you're a teacher in an English-speaking classroom, put away the shyness. Your job is to lead the students in speaking English. And maybe it will help for you to connect with them on a different level, like the one I was just talking about, Zina. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome, Zina.
And Dr. Jessica, just one more thing I want to share with others as well. With the student-based system or learning approach, what is important is you are giving the students the opportunity to discover themselves. They can do a lot. We, as a human beings, we can do a lot. The capabilities are endless. We can do anything if we want to do it. And if somebody give us the opportunity to do it, okay? So they just need to discover how much they can do. Otherwise, it's going to be just students sitting in the class, listening or maybe sleeping while you're giving them, your lecture. That's it. And at the end of the day, you give them a piece of paper with the questions. They have just to memorize the answers, and they have to answer the questions, and that's it. And maybe at the end of the exam, they remember nothing. But if they do actually do the work themselves, it's going to be like, printed. That's it. Plus, they've discovered that they learn to do something. Personally, myself, I'll share my experience with others as well. When I was in Iraq before I left, I used to depend so much on my husband. For example, doing so many things, computer work and so on, But then when I went outside, to be honest, I had to do so many things on my own. Just because there was nobody to help me, I had to do it. I had to do it. I didn't have anyone to help, so I couldn't rely on anybody else. With time, I just gained trust in myself. Okay, there is nothing that I can do, but I just need to know that, and I need somebody to tell me that yes, you can do so many things. So it's the same with our kids as well, with our students. They just need to know that they can do that. They can give this presentation. They can talk to others. They can share their experience. They can learn just by, searching and doing their stuff. We don't need to tell them you need to read to find this information in that book, and you need to choose this program, for example, or so on. We might guide them, okay, but they have to do their own work, their own homework, to develop themselves, to discover themselves, and to actually, I don't know what to say, but basically just to move from one level to another level. And thank you so much.
Yeah, Nuha, to expound on what you're saying, or expand, they're overcoming their fears. When they overcome their fears of presenting, they're gaining their own self-confidence and their own self-belief. So thank you. I'm so glad you're out there, Nuha. I hope you had fun. I studied at the University of Sydney. Where were you in Australia?
I did my PhD at University of Melbourne, actually, and I did so many other stuff as well, at like University of Bond, for example, in Queensland. Yeah, I stayed for almost 9 years, so yeah, I studied so many things actually. But the main one, the PhD, I did here at the University of Melbourne. Yeah.
Your children are certainly global citizens.
Yeah.
Future diplomats.
Yeah, it's great to meet you, definitely.
Thanks again.
Sorry?
I said thanks again. Anybody else have a question?
Just the voice.
Yeah, your voice cut out.
But yeah.
Okay. But that's okay. We're all adapting, aren't we?
Okay, so any further question, please? I think there's no more questions. There are no more questions.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Jessica.
Yes, Dr. Ahmed, thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to meet with all of your brilliant students. And please make sure you share the recording with me. And we'll set up a time to talk about modernizing curriculums.
Okay, this will be great. Just one word before we leave. In the University of Canberra, the Faculty of Medicine, we have adopted and we started some steps toward the achievement of this student-centered approach. I sent you some photos about our PBL session. It is based on problem-based sessions, which we are trying very hard to adopt this model, which the student is the center. In Iraq, we have a long history of a teacher-centered approach. We are trying here and in many other colleges, especially in the medical schools, here in Kufa also, to adopt the student-centered approach, which, as you said, and as everybody will agree about this, it's the best approach for developing a person and a human that is dependable, social, and has a lot of skills, and a great attitude. That's what I want to say. And the pharmacology department, we are really involved in this. We are involved in the teaching process. The director of the
mute yourself.
Yes.
Yes, we have a problem, I think, here. Just a minute.
Yeah, Nuha muted herself. We're okay. Go ahead, Dr. Ahmed.
Yes. We have the we are involved. All of us are facilitators for small groups in the problem-based learning sessions, and we are also involved in the. We have members in the curriculum committee and the assessment committee, and the director of the medical education unit, Dr. Haider, he didn't speak. He's also from the pharmacology department. So we are familiar with these terms, and we are trying to perform it and achieve it in the best way. But you see, we have problems also. We have many problems. As I told you, we have a long history of teacher-centered education, and this is a problem. It's not easy to convince teachers to let their power or control, and this is a problem.
I agree with you, Dr. Ahmed, that's why I was talking about the paradigm shift so much. And that it does take a leap of faith and realize it's okay if you don't control the whole room. And that let the freedom of information just keep flowing. And I don't know if you caught that slide, but one of the slides you shared with me was great about the pharmacology students around a table. All you could see the light in their eyes, and you could see them smiling, and you could see them working on the information. I loved that slide, and that was from you.
Yes, this is one of the problem PBL sessions. It's a small group, and we have it every week. It's not only in the pharmacology department. All the teachers from all disciplines, they are working as facilitators. We call them tutors.
Yes,
they
or
facilitate
mentors,
the
mentors, whatever.
Yeah,
you know, I showed pictures from Stanford, Harvard, Vermont, Iowa, Washington State, and what you're just talking about with the problem-based learning, Dr. Ahmed, that's what they're doing at Ohio State University. And my future daughter-in-law loves the method. But this gets to the point of what you're saying. If people don't think, if people aren't convinced by the research, and the research is out there. Some of this research about medical schools goes back to 2003. But every school in our country is doing it. And if you have professors who are just going, I don't believe it, it's really what you're saying. They don't want to relinquish, or it's not that they don't want to, it's that they're not comfortable relinquishing control or moving themselves from the guide, from the sage on the stage to the guide on the side. It's personal. But all the research tells us that what you're saying is right. And it's about identity. Identity is a picture. Go ahead. I can't understand you, Dr. Zahaza. There's too much noise.
Yes.
Maybe you should type. Go ahead, Dr. Ahmed.
Yes. I want Dr. Haider to say something. I don't know if he's with us or something happened to the internet.
Yes, I'm here. Good evening. Dr. Jesse. I'm Dr. Haider Aboud, Director of Medical Education Unit in the College of Medicine. I'm very grateful to you for this nice presentation and your sharing of knowledge. And would like to thank also Dr. Ahmed and Dr. Nerjis for their cooperation and holding of this interactive session. Actually, as Dr. Ahmed said, we have a new experience in our college in adopting new medical education, I call it themes or paradigm shift or what you call it. It is really a change. It's a change in lifestyle, a change in
teaching methods change, even in our life, because everything has been changed in the college. Our relationship with the students, our peers, and even as colleagues, our relationships have been something different. In addition to the teaching methods, we also have new experience in the assessment methods. And I think that Dr. Ahmed is expert in this field. We adopted assessment system that goes parallel with this. And it's a very important point, because if you want to keep the students motivated and engaged in your program, you have to ensure a good assessment method. Because at the end, they need to be graduated. Although they are learned and got their knowledge, but they want to be graduated. So I think our experience is very good, and it's a growing experience. And by these activities, by sharing knowledge with you and with other colleagues, we will develop more and more and more. So great thanks for you and for Dr. Ahmed and Dr. Nerjis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Haidar. Excuse me. I'm really honored that you joined us today, and I applaud your great efforts to corral all of these brilliant professors into a new direction. And you're right about how smart these students are, and smart people are curious, and you have to make them, you have to keep that curiosity flowing. You know, when they were finally able to look at Einstein's brain, they found that Einstein's brain, it wasn't bigger. What he had more of was connections. And it's about connecting different pieces of information. And we don't make those connections just by reading.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jessica. It's really a pleasure to meet you. And your session, your lecture, or maybe it was very inspiring. We're glad to hear you. And we hope that we will meet again soon. We hope.
In person.
Yes, we hope so.
Yes, okay. So thank you for I'm so honored to have been invited here today, especially speaking to a medical school. I am somewhat humbled, and so thank you for your kind words, and I hope to see you again soon too.
We hope so also. This is we greet you from the Department of Pharmacology. You have been listening to Dr. Nuha, Dr. Haidar, and Dr. Nerjis, and me. We are from the Pharmacology Department. We all thank you on the behalf of the College of Medicine, and we will sure have some collaboration with you. This is for sure.
Yes, wonderful. I look forward to that.
Okay.
So I hope everybody, thank you for spending your evening with me. I know it's quite late for you. I think it's time. Is it time for us to say goodbye?
Okay.
Yeah,
Bye.
I think so. Thanks so much, Jessica, for your nice presentation and the effort you take to give a nice lecture, interactive one, and hopefully we'll see you again in your lecture in the near future.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks again.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Have a nice
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Nice.